So you've got Tarkov, you're jumping back onto Tarkov, and you're thinking, right, which mode do I have to play? There is PvE or PvP. At least these are the choices that some people would like you to think are available to you. There's actually a third choice. You can play both. And I'm going to tell you some of the reasons why you would want to play PvE, as well as go into depth on some of the things that you're going to not have if you do play PvE come the full release of Escape from Tarkov. So hopefully this is going to be a unbiased review. I've played 1,000 hours of PvP. I have played 1,000+ hours of PvE. I think we're up to nearly 1,500 hours or something like that on PvE at the moment. I have a pretty good idea of both of the modes, so let's delve into what the actual experience is from a player who has played both. So there is a cost to playing PvE mode. It costs an additional €30 over the standard price of Escape from Tarkov. You cannot just simply, at the moment at least, buy the PvE game mode of Tarkov. You have to buy the standard version, which includes PvP, and then buy an additional upgrade for €30 to be able to actually play the PvE game mode on top of the PvP. There is no singular PvE game mode that you can just buy and play. So yeah, quite expensive, €82 if you want to buy both of them just to play the PvE game mode versus €52 if you want to play the standard edition. Whilst I think that from my experience and how much time I've put into PvE, knowing what I know now, it was a very worthwhile purchase. It is very expensive. If you are just balls deeping it and going for the €195 package for the Unheard edition, or like $250 or whatever the equivalent is in America, you do get PvE mode included, as you'd probably expect from an edition that costs you €195. Yeah, most people, I would never recommend this as the first instance of buying Tarkov. It's very expensive and you have no idea if you're going to even like it in the first place. So I thought I'd mention the cost. It does cost extra, so it could be a factor in whether or not you even play PvE mode in the first place. Now, if you're a brand new player to Tarkov, you've never played before, PvE can be a good learning tool, and it's actually one of the things that is quite important about PvE and a benefit to a lot of players who do play Tarkov and maybe haven't got the hours of, you know, a 16-year-old kid who's just going to school or they're going to college and can put in more hours than people who are working full time. So when you first pick up Tarkov, you can get through that horrible learning stage that will take you a lot longer if you are playing on PvP, because you get into more engagements, you can generally survive for longer, and you can learn the core game mechanics of Tarkov itself whilst also playing the PvE game mode and enjoying the kind of base game, the game mechanics, being able to understand how to use various different weapons, finding the weapons that you enjoy using, learning the actual maps of the game, being able to explore the quest lines to find out how to do each of the quest lines with less pressure of, you know, there's going to be other people trying to take you out as you're doing the quest. You know, all of these things that are going to enable you to understand more about the core game as you go through, so you can learn kind of without as much fear of being taken out by someone instantly who knows all of the spawn points that you could possibly spawn on the map that you decide to choose on PvP, so you don't just run out of the spawn and instantly get tapped by someone who's literally pre-aiming your spawn point. So there is benefits to obviously playing PvE for the learning experience, and because you're not just instantly getting taken out, you have time to explore the map and everything that comes with that. As well as the fact that you'll learn also some of the more valuable routes that you can earn money for that will be very useful in PvP. And when you transition, if you do decide to transition to PvP, it is, going to be a really, really good help. It's also a safe place to kind of master how various different things actually work. So, you know, your healing, your stamina management, you know, being able to not get caught in the middle of a road with zero stamina, being able to control your recoil, because the recoil system in Tarkov is quite different from a lot of the other games. There's also inertia within the game, so you do have some form of, as you get heavier in your raids, it's going to affect your kind of sensitivity that you'll feel within the game. You can't just suddenly suddenly flick over to the left, you can feel it in the game, and you only really get to learn that by playing the game. There's very few games that have that sort of system that feel like Tarkov. So it's not like your typical shooter that you would see with Black Ops or Battlefield, where you're just it's always consistent. You're not picking things up, you're not getting heavier, you are just whatever your base character is just how it is in all situations. So that's also something that PvE does quite well, and you're always overweight, so you'll learn the inertia based mechanic quite easily. It did also get nerfed as to how much of an impact that inertia has on your character recently with one of the updates to Tarkov, so that definitely was a good change, I think. The overweight status also getting changed, but whether we'll see that in the full release of Tarkov, I don't know as of yet, as a permanent full-time addition to the game. You've also got a way to maybe complete the entire game in a indefinite time period, or like a permanent thing that you can do over time, that is going to, be at your own pace. You want to play one raid every 2 days, perfectly fine. You're not going to be at a disadvantage against every AI that you're meeting, because they are always the same, and that will come into a point later on, but at the same time, you are able to, go through all of the storylines, feel like you're progressing every time that you come on, and you're just generally learning quite a lot when it comes to how the game actually works. But there are a few places where PvE does start to break down, and there are some problems. It is not all sunshine and rainbows. It's not like you should always play this mode as a new player, you should always play it as a returning player. There are a lot of things that actually wouldn't translate very well if you are a PvP orientated player that is just trying to learn the game. Now, the first thing is the AI. The AI, whilst they have seen some dramatic improvements, and we made a video not that long ago literally going through the improvements that happen to the AI, where they are in a much better place and have positively affected the PvP mode as well, because all of the changes that they've made to AI have also been translated over to PvP. The thing is that the AI still are nowhere near the variance that you would see from PvP players. They're not going to be human-like. They are not going to try and flank you. They are not going to try and rat you. They currently are not able to really have any complex logic behind how they are going to push you. They tend to follow the exact same patterns every time. And the actual fights that you'll find yourself in are generally nowhere near even close to what a PvP fight will be, and they feel less engaging, to be honest. If you take out a PMC AI within the PvE game mode, it feels way less rewarding than actually taking out a human player, from the perspective of like being able to outthink your opponent. The AI don't really have too much thinking going on. They tend to just run towards you, and in a straight line they'll come through a door. They won't actually pre-aim anywhere, they won't pre-fire, they'll just run straight through the door, and as long as you're pre-aiming the door, it's good night to the AI. So the actual combat system within the PvE game mode does kind of suck in terms of it being really, really engaging, and currently there's no difficulty system to try and kind of combat that at the moment. Hopefully we'll see that in time, whereby you can make it harder if you want to. You can make it a bit more like as if they were real players, where they do actually think a bit more logically, but at the moment it doesn't feel all too good from a combat specific focus. Obviously it can still be fun, it can still be challenging, it can still be hard, but the actual core concept of the AI and how they move and path is still very much in their basic infancy stage. They're not particularly that well developed in the long term, considering a lot of other games that have AI. They do beat a lot of those games, but they do not pose the same sort of difficulty that you would see playing against players, and the variance I think that you would see playing against players, where with them jumping around, they jump on a box, they jump and run across halfway across the map, and then they suddenly jump on top of a box and aim at you. Like, that is not going to happen in PvE. the AI will just simply move towards you either slowly, or they'll dash towards you, or they might move around to another entrance of the building you're in and then come through that door. So as long as you've got headphones, you can pretty much deal with them quite easily. There's also the issue of, if you are a player that enjoys PvP and you want to play both modes, you'll find that if you play PvE at the very beginning, you're learning PvE, you will become, better at all of the different core gameplay systems. The only real issue is that you will find yourself in wrong zones. You'll find yourself when you transition over to PvP, if you do play PvP afterwards, or you play it alongside, or you're trying to play both at the exact same time, is that in PvP, the zones at which players actually fight in general is completely different to PvE. Now, BSG have tried to make the high valuable loot areas have the most PMCs, and PMCs will move to those high value loot locations, which typically is where the players in PvP would be fighting. The actual places in which you fight in those places is just not the same. Like, you will not see the AI in a corner holding an angle on a door as you're coming close to that area. You will not see the AI holding inside of a bunker with where you can only see their head. You will not see them in a window looking down into the zone where most people fight. That just doesn't really happen. And whilst in a rare occasion you might see that in PvE, typically you will hear them through a voice line, and they'll voice line out, and then you can hear where they are before they start hitting you with bullets. So yeah, I mean, it does give you a false sense of security. You think that you know all of the maps, you know how to be in combat, and then when you jump into PvP and suddenly everyone's in completely different locations in the same location, you start to think, okay, this is completely different, and you don't know where typically players in real life are going to be versus players in the AI world that you've been learning on. So that will become a challenge, and that will be something that someone who only plays PvP mode from the very beginning and has never played the PvE mode will know better than you at the same amount of time that they've played on the game. But obviously they don't have the knowledge of all of the other aspects that you learn through PvE. They might not know the maps as well. So yeah, that is kind of something that you'll have to have a bit of a trade-off if you decide to play PvE over PvP and you want to play PvP. I think my whole video today is really about the fact that you don't have to play just one mode. Lots of people on the internet want to make you feel like you are wedged into either playing PvP or playing PvE, or you have to only do that, or you should hate everyone else that plays the other mode for some unbeknownst reason. At the end of the day, you can play both, and the majority of players don't care. They don't care what you play. They don't care what, Joe Blogs down the street plays. They just enjoy playing what they play, so play what you like to play. If you like playing both, play both. If you like playing against the AI because that generally feels better for you, play against the AI. If you only like the core combat mechanics and you're not interested in anything else, and you really love the PvP engagements that you have in the game, well then just play PvP. It's really that simple. You shouldn't need to take this side-based approach, and some of you are going to enjoy playing both. Sometimes there's actually good reasons to play PvE even if you play PvP, for the simple fact of testing different weapon builds, being able to do things for free from the very beginning of maybe there's a seasonal wipe or something that happens on PvP. And so you won't have any of the gear, but you can jump on over to PvE and you'll be able to instantly load out with the best new gear and test it out, so you know in advance of when you achieve it on the PvP mode, you'll have it there. Similarly, if you're on PvE, you're going to be able to play some PvP, and maybe some of the tips that when you get through fighting players can be applied to the AI as well, because you'll have to aim better in terms of like you get less of a chance of missing when you're playing the PvP players compared to PvE players, or at least AI in PvE, because of the fact that, yeah, if you miss, the other person may not miss because they've been sat there aim training for days on days, or, you know, maybe you get better at tracking opponents, so it's going to translate back over to PvE. So this is all stuff that I thought was important, and I guess when it comes down to like the motivation and the mindset of you as a player who plays the game, the biggest thing is with PvE, it's forgiving. It feels like if you get taken out, it doesn't really cost you anything. But that also detracts away from what I like about the game, of like feeling like I should lose something. But that's not to say that I think everyone in PvE should lose something. I just prefer how the PvP is that maybe you lose all your gear and you don't get it back, and now you have to grind a little bit more. You have to find those rubles, and it makes the ruble finding even more valuable in new raids, that sort of thing. But in PvE, I also love the ability to go around and test out weird challenges that are completely separate that I wouldn't be able to do in PvP. You know, if I want to get to 200 kilos in a raid or something, walking around like I literally cannot move, then I can do that, and I can do it much more freely than on PvP. So these are sorts of things that you have to kind of think about, and yeah, I just really wanted to make the video to like dispel any of this bullshit that is that you have to either play PvP or you have to either play PvE. Like, no, you can just play whatever you like, and you can play both at the same time, and most people don't care, other than the, you know, idiots in YouTube comment sections that tell you that if you play PvE you're a bad player. Well, I'll have you find that lots of good players also play PvE, and lots of bad players also play PvP. There's, you know, there's going to be differences in everything, and yeah, it's just an argument that is a non-starter, to be honest. And most of them are just elitist, or they want to feel like because they play the right mode, in quotation marks, that they are of somehow more important than everyone else. You know, it happens in everything, happens in every game, happens in real life. You know, it's just this core concept, but you don't need to take any notice of it and just play whatever you want to play. I've given out my reasons why you would play PvE over PvP, as well as some of the drawbacks of playing PvE over PvP.